On October 7th, 1952, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin was born in Leningrad, city still bearing the name of the revolutionary leader Lenin, before it reclaimed its historical title of St. Petersburg. The Soviet Union, victorious yet scarred from the Second World War, was a nation of sacrifice and survival. The Siege of Leningrad, a brutal 872-day ordeal that claimed countless lives through starvation and shelling, lingered in the collective memory like a dark shadow. Vladimir's parents, Vladimir Spiridonovich and Maria Ivanovna, had endured this nightmare. His father, a hardened veteran of the Red Army, faced the Nazi war machine on the front lines, his courage forged in the crucible of battle. After the war, he returned to the grueling life of a factory worker, laboring in Leningrad's railway industry. Maria, having survived the siege as horrors watching, neighbors waste away and buildings crumble under German bombs, worked alongside her husband in the same factory, their lives defined by toil and resilience. Their home was a cramped communal apartment, a hallmark of Soviet urban life, where multiple families shared a single kitchen, dilapidated bathroom, and a solitary toilet. For the Putin family, privacy was confined to a small room where Vladimir, their only child, slept beside his parents on worn mattresses laid on the floor. This austere environment, coupled with the discipline instilled by parents who had known war's brutality, shaped Vladimir's early years, embedding in him a deep-seated respect for order and a visceral aversion to weakness. Leningrad's icy streets were Vladimir's playground, but they were no place for innocence. By age 10, he ran with a rough crowd of neighborhood kids, young delinquents who defied authority with reckless abandon. They stole cigarettes, sipped cheap vodka in hidden corners, and settled disputes with fists in snow-dusted alleys. Vladimir, small but scrappy, earned respect for his fearlessness, never backing down from a fight, even against bigger opponents. To his parents, he was a wild child, a troublemaker whose future seemed bleak, perhaps destined for a life in the factories, or worse, the criminal underworld. Yet beneath this rebellious exterior burned a quiet ambition, a desire to rise above the gray monotony of Leningrad. At school, Vladimir was no star pupil, but his quick mind shone through when he applied himself. Teachers noted his raw intelligence but lamented his lack of focus, his tendency to prioritize street brawls over studies. His path seemed set for obscurity, but two pivotal figures would alter its course. In his teenage years, Vladimir met Vera Gurevich, his German teacher, a woman with a keen eye for potential. She saw past the tough facade, recognizing in him a spark of curiosity and a restless energy that could be harnessed. Taking him under her wing, Vera introduced him to Leningrad's cultural treasures, guiding him through the Hermitage's grand halls, where he marveled at Russian masterpieces. She gave him books by Tolstoy and Dostoevsky, their tales of human struggle resonating with the young boy. She played him Tchaikovsky's symphonies, awakening a love for music that softened his rough edges. These experiences opened Vladimir's eyes to a world beyond the streets, igniting a hunger for knowledge and a vision of a life with purpose. Around the same time, another mentor entered his life, his judo coach, a man with shadowy ties to the KGB, the Soviet Union's formidable intelligence agency. This coach saw in Vladimir a natural fighter, not just in spirit, but in skill. Judo and Sambo, a Soviet martial art blending wrestling and submission techniques, became Vladimir's outlet. He thrived in the dojo, mastering moves that demanded precision, discipline, and resilience. These sessions were more than physical training. They were a school of self-control, teaching him to channel his aggression into strategy. Together, Vera and his coach transformed the wayward boy into a young man with direction, planting the seeds of an audacious dream to become a spy. This ambition was fueled by Soviet pop culture. Television series like The 17 Moments of Spring glorified KGB agents as patriotic heroes, outwitting capitalist foes with cunning and bravery. To young Vladimir, these spies were the epitome of power and purpose, serving the motherland in the shadows. At 18, in 1970, he made a calculated move, enrolling in Leningrad State University's law faculty, a prestigious institution that served as a gateway to the Soviet elite. For 5 years, he immersed himself in international commercial law, honed his German to fluency, and delved into political philosophy, which offered him a lens to understand power dynamics. His thesis on global trade showcased a sharp, analytical mind, Graduating in 1975, he caught the eye of the KGB, who saw in him a blend of intellect, discipline, and grit, a perfect recruit. Joining the KGB, Vladimir anticipated a life of high-stakes espionage. Instead, he was assigned to counterintelligence in Leningrad, drowning in paperwork and mundane surveillance tasks. The reality of bureaucratic drudgery clashed with his visions of covert missions, leaving him restless and disillusioned. In 1983, at 31, he married Lyudmila, a woman he had dated for 3 years. Their relationship, built on quiet affection, took a surprising turn when Lyudmila learned her husband wasn't a police officer, as she'd believed, but a KGB operative. This revelation, though startling, didn't fracture their bond. They welcomed 2 daughters, Maria and Ekaterina, who grew up unaware of their father's secret life. In 1984, at 32, Vladimir's career took a leap forward. Promoted to major, he was sent to Moscow for elite training at the Andropov Institute, the KGB's premier academy. Under the codename Platov, he mastered the art of espionage, intelligence gathering, deception, and covert operations. This rigorous program felt like a true calling, preparing him for the international stage. In August 1985, Vladimir was dispatched to Dresden, East Germany, a Soviet-controlled territory. Officially an embassy, his real mission was to recruit informants for the KGB, a critical but unglamorous task. Dresden, far from the glittering capitals of Paris or Washington, disappointed the ambitious operative. Days blended into a monotonous cycle of meetings, reports, and discreet contacts. Isolated from his homeland, Vladimir struggled with boredom, and his drinking became a growing concern.
Alamila.
And their daughters joined him. But life in Dresden was stifling, under the constant watch of the East German regime. Yet Vladimir remained disciplined, performing his duties with precision, even as he yearned for more. The world changed on November 9, 1989, when the Berlin Wall fell. In Dresden, protests erupted against the communist regime, and angry crowds targeted KGB offices. Fearing for his family's safety, Vladimir arranged their hasty return to Leningrad. The Soviet Union's collapse in 1991 left him adrift. Back in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, the family squeezed into his parents' communal apartment, a humiliating step backward. The cramped room, shared with his daughters, was a stark reminder of the uncertainty gripping the nation. The KGB, once a pillar of Soviet power, was crumbling, and Vladimir knew he had to reinvent himself to survive in the new Russia. In 1991, he joined the team of Anatoly Sobchak, a reformist law professor turned mayor of St. Petersburg, riding the wave of democratic fervor sweeping the country. Sobchak, impressed by Vladimir's pragmatism and lack of ideological rigidity, made him a trusted advisor, and by 1994, his deputy. Tasked with attracting foreign investment to a city reeling from economic collapse, Vladimir navigated a chaotic landscape of inflation, shortages, and crime. His firm hand brought order, but whispers of corruption trailed him. Foreign investors, drawn by opportunities in the post-Soviet market, passed through his office, and some alleged that bribes greased the wheels. No concrete evidence emerged, but the rumors stuck. His partnership with Sobchak built a powerful network, laying the groundwork for his rise. In 1996, Sobchak lost the mayoral election, and Vladimir, ever loyal, resigned. This setback could have ended his career, but his reputation as a capable operator opened new doors. Summoned to Moscow, he joined the administration of President Boris Yeltsin, a leader weakened by alcoholism and declining health. From 1996 to 1998, Vladimir climbed the Kremlin's ranks, moving from minor legal tasks to key roles. In July 1998, he was appointed director of the FSB, the KGB's successor, placing him at the heart of Russia's power structure. Yeltsin's Russia was in turmoil. The economy was in tatters. Oligarchs wielded unchecked influence, and the president's erratic behavior damaged the country's image. In August 1999, Yeltsin stunned the nation by naming Vladimir prime minister, thrusting the reserved operative into the spotlight. On December 31, 1999, Yeltsin resigned, making Vladimir acting president. In March 2000, he won the presidential election with 53% of the vote, capitalizing on public frustration with the 1990s chaos and his tough stance against Chechen separatist attacks. As President Vladimir set out to restore state authority, he launched the Second Chechen War, a brutal campaign to crush separatists, cementing his image as a strong man. Domestically, he centralized power, curbing the autonomy of regional governors and reining in oligarchs. Like Boris Berezovsky, initially backed him, but others faced exile or imprisonment. Internationally, he played a dual game. He supported the US after the 9/11 attacks, but his distrust of Western expansion, particularly NATO's eastward push, grew. Re-elected in 2004, with 71% of the vote, he tightened control over media and institutions, silencing dissent. By 2008, constitutional limits forced him to step down as president. He handpicked Dmitry Medvedev, a loyal ally, to succeed him, while remaining prime minister and wielding significant influence. Medvedev pursued modernization, expanding internet access and tackling corruption, but Vladimir pulled the strings. In 2008, Russia's invasion of Georgia, sparked by tensions over NATO's influence, underscored his resolve to protect Russian interests. In 2012, Vladimir returned to the presidency amid massive protests, accusing him of electoral fraud. Unfazed, he dismissed the demonstrators as Western puppets, invoking Cold War rhetoric. His third term embraced conservatism. He opposed same-sex marriage, aligned with the Russian Orthodox Church, and promoted a traditionalist Russian identity. He revived the Soviet anthem with new lyrics and adopted the Tsarist tricolor flag, blending imperial and Soviet nostalgia. In 2014, the annexation of Crimea, framed as a reunification, boosted his popularity despite Western sanctions. He bolstered Russia's global voice through media like RT and Sputnik, countering Western narratives. Hosting the 2014 Sochi Olympics and the 2018 World Cup showcased Russia's resurgence. Re-elected in 2018 with 77% of the vote, he amended the constitution in 2020, allowing him to rule until 2036. In 2021, his chief rival, Alexei Navalny, was jailed after surviving an assassination attempt, a move that drew global outrage but solidified Vladimir's grip. In February 2022, Vladimir launched an invasion of Ukraine, dubbed a special military operation to counter Western influence. Despite international condemnation, crippling sanctions, and failed diplomatic efforts symbolized by a meeting with Emmanuel Macron across an absurdly long table, he pressed on. In March 2022, addressing a packed Luzhniki Stadium, he celebrated Russia's strength, evoking a vision of imperial glory. At over 70, Vladimir Putin embodies a Russia he has molded, authoritarian, nostalgic, and defiant. His journey from a scrappy Leningrad kid to a global power reflects relentless ambition. Mentors shaped his mind and body. The KGB taught him strategy, and crises honed his opportunism. To supporters, he's the savior of a humiliated nation. To critics, an autocrat isolating Russia. His legacy, still unfolding, is a tale of resilience, control, and division, reshaping the world's fault lines.